Next one I'd like to go to is the one, the four sources of capital, which I know you just mentioned. And so I've rearranged those. I use team because I like to think that we have a team of capital.
Nice.
Uh, but I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about that.
That's great. I have no problem. But just to go over them, so money, energy, time, and attention, or in your case, time, energy, attention, money, both are great. Let's just talk real quickly about attention, because I think that's kind of fun. Like, money seems like it's obvious because we talk about it so much, and I think time's really interesting. Like, one of the fun thought experiments with money and time is, what if somebody asked me this, like, what if we treated money like it had the same characteristics as time? Meaning, like, you couldn't save it up, you can't store it. Like, at the end of the day, that time's gone. And I'm not sure it's the best financial planning practice, but it's an interesting thought experiment. Like, how would you treat your life differently? Because one day that will actually be true, right? You can't save it up. I mean, the Egyptians tried that and all it got them was robbed. So I think that's interesting. And attention's really interesting to me too. Like, we have all this language around. I don't think we spend enough time talking and thinking about attention, because I would argue, at least culturally and commercially, the most valuable commodity on the planet right now is our collective attention, your individual attention. The richest people in the world, if we're just going to look at what society values, the richest people in the world are titans of attention. Facebook, Amazon, I think you can argue, Twitter in the old days, whatever it's called now, X. Those are all people who are battling for your attention. So if it's that valuable to them, in other words, it's made them the richest people in the world, it must have some value. Like, titans of it, it's no longer railroad titans, it's titans of attention. That's pretty wild to think about. So if we just start thinking that way, like, wait, this must be really valuable, I'm going to be a little bit more careful about how I allocate it. And then we have this phrase, pay attention. And I would argue that the currency, the way you pay for a good relationship, is with the currency of attention. Right? I think the way you buy a meaningful life is by paying attention to what you pay attention to. I just think it's fun to play around with attention. Apparently, it's really, really valuable, and it's very hard to allocate.
That's a really interesting concept. I hadn't thought about attention quite in that way, but what you're saying makes a lot of sense, because when you think about, like, there's a question I'll sometimes ask that I got from my life planning training, that if I ask you how many hours in a day, you're going to tell me 24. And if I ask you how many hours they're going to be tomorrow, it's still 24. And a week from now, it's still going to be 24. But then the exercise becomes, if there's some type of cosmic event and all of a sudden the Earth started to spin a little bit faster, and there are only 22 hours in the day instead of 24, what would you do? What changes would you make? And you can't tell me, oh, I'd sleep less, because that's really not going to do it. So you have to figure out what to cut out, and that what you're cutting out really ties into the idea of attention.
I agree. I think any exercise that helps us understand that attention actually is a source of capital that you get to spend and invest, it gets a return. And I actually would argue that it's the most, apparently, it's maybe the most valuable source of capital we have.
Social media companies would certainly argue that, right?
Yeah, and I think too, just when you start to realize, like, you can certainly spend time with one of your children. That is a completely different experience. That kid will have you and that child will have a completely different experience if you also spend attention during that time. And they will know the difference. They will know the difference. Time is one thing, and you could spend time, money, and energy. Like, we're going to go on an experience. It's going to cost us money to ski. So we're going to be together. It's going to cost us money to ski, and it's going to take energy to go do it. And you could not even be there with your attention, and the whole experience could actually end up being a net negative experience, depending on your child's perspective. I mean, it could also be awesome that I got to ski all day and I didn't even have to talk to my dad. But there's a real tangible difference there, and I think we just don't pay enough attention to attention as a source of capital.